Hatikava, a Hebrew word that means the hope. It is also the name of the Israeli national anthem. In the anthem it says, Hatikava Batshonot Apaim, or in English, the hope of 2,000 years. The hope for what, you may ask? The hope of freedom. The freedom to worship God in a synagogue. The freedom to teach Hebrew to their children. The freedom to keep God's laws. And the freedom to live in a land of their own. The hope of 2,000 years to return to Zion, the land of the Bible promised by God to the children of Abraham. The hope to return home. The Jewish people in this video are from Poland in the early 1930s. They are singing Hatikava. In their time, Zionism, the idea of return to Israel and to make it a Jewish state, was growing and taking hold in the Jewish community of pre-war Europe. Zionism even had prominent supporters, like that of His Majesty's government of Great Britain. These children are singing of their hope that they may see the land of Zion in their lifetime. Only 1 out of every 3 would survive the next 15 years. Even fewer would see God's promised land, Zion. Theodor Herzl, the father of Zionism, devoted his whole life to the return of the Jewish people to their homeland in Palestine, and to the restoration of Zion. Without him, there would not be a Jewish state of Israel today. He was born in Budapest, Hungary in 1860, but he moved with his family to Vienna after the death of his sister Pauline in 1878. Herzl was well educated and became a well-known writer in Vienna. He founded his own weekly paper there in May of 1897, called Die Welt, the World. The paper helped to promote Zionism amongst European Jews. Prior to the founding of his own paper, he was a staff reporter for the Vienna newspaper Neue Friese Presse, and their correspondent in Paris, where he witnessed the Dreyfus Affair, in which a Jewish French officer was falsely accused of spying for Germany and exiled to Devil's Island. After the government-inflicted anti-Semitic incident, Herzl concluded that the Jews of Europe had to have a state of their own to be safe and respected as equals in Europe. In Paris, at a well-known hotel, Theodor Herzl sat down at a desk and wrote The Brilliant Jewish State, which would become the framework for the Jewish people, Zionism, and the establishment of a state of Israel. This would prove to be the most profound piece of literature for the Jewish people of the 20th and 21st centuries. The book was published in Leipzig in February of 1896 by Theodor Herzl. Theodor Herzl furthered his work for the advancement of Zionism in Vienna. In August of 1897, or the first of the Hebrew month of Elul, he began the tradition of the Zionist Congress. In the first Zionist Congress, 203 Jewish delegates from Eastern and Western Europe attended. The first Zionist Congress adopted the Baal Plan, which seeks to establish by law a Jewish state in Palestine. The next year, Herzl convenes the Second Zionist Congress, where he establishes the Jewish Colonial Trust, which would fund the Zionist movement. Sadly, in 1904, after a month-long illness, Theodor Herzl, the great father of Zionism, died, never being able to see the fulfillment of his prophetic vision of a strong new generation of Maccabees living in Israel. Many events occurred during World War I that would forever shape the future of the Jewish people. The British are at war with the Muslim Ottoman Empire, which had ruled over the religiously diverse province of Palestine for centuries. One such event was when the British Army, under the command of General Allenby, conquered Jerusalem from Ottoman forces in 1917. This resulted in Christians controlling the Holy City for the first time since the Crusades. British victory in the war also meant this new conquest for the British Empire would become a colony under the name of the Mandate of Palestine, which backed up the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was a document written by British Foreign Secretary Lord Arthur J. Balfour in November of 1917 to Lord Rothschild, a prominent Jewish leader and advocate for Zionism, expressing His Majesty's government's intent and inclination on the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine. Because of the Balfour Declaration, the Mandate of Palestine would have founding pro-Jewish principles, like the open immigration policy towards European Jews. However, the British would end this policy in the 30s after violence of Arabs towards the new Jewish immigrants and the increased anti-Semitism coming out of Europe. This rise of anti-Semitism in Europe would lead to the Holocaust. I will let the following video speak for itself on the Holocaust, the murder of 6 million Jews by Nazi Germany.
We saw and we know. We were able to speak freely with internees and to hear their stories. You will now see a few of the sights we saw, and much as they may shock you, do believe me when I tell you that the reality was indescribably worse than these pictures. You cannot photograph suffering, only its results. In pictures you have no smell of disease and death. Here you see no more than a fragment of the full pattern of horror. When they had died, they were either burnt in these ovens or thrown like vermin into large communal pits. General Eisenhower is now giving each victim as he dies a reverent burial. Many of the mourners are very sick men. On the day before our visit, the deaths had been reduced to 35 during the day. Several nationalities and types, many of them intellectual and highly gifted men and women, were herd in unspeakable conditions which have entirely altered their appearance.
After the tragedy of World War II and the Holocaust, Britain granted independence to the State of Israel, only now convinced the Jewish people needed a nation of their own to defend and provide for themselves after the murder of 6 million of their people. In 1948, Ben-Gurion declared Israeli independence, and therefore the independence of the Jewish people for the first time since the Roman conquest more than 2,000 years prior. Here is Ben-Gurion reading the Declaration of Independence in Tel Aviv in 1948.
עומד ברשות עצמו במדינתו הריבונית, אשר תפתח לרווחה את שערי המולדת לכל יהודי, ותעניק לעם היהודי מעמד של אומה שוות זכויות בתוך העמים. לפיכך נתכנסנו אנו חברי מועצת העם, נציגי היישוב העברי והתנועה הציונית, ביום סיום המנדט הבריטי על ארץ ישראל. מתוקף זכותנו הטבעית וההיסטורית, ועל יסוד החלטת עצרת האומות המאוחדות, אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
Theodor Herzl's vision of a new generation of Jews living and prospering in Zion would finally be fulfilled when IDF troops took back the old city of Jerusalem from Arab forces on June 5, 1967.
אני יורד ברגע זה אני יורד במדרגות אל הכותל. אינני אדם דתי, מעולם לא הייתי, אבל זהו הכותל, ואני נוגע באבני הכותל המערבי.